So Mike, I was talking to my friend this weekend and she was doing keto and lost like 89 million pounds. Like we should totally do keto, right? Okay.
Totally do keto.
How many times do you guys hear stuff like that? What's up? It is Corey, Beth, and Mike. We are coming to you on the downside of high carb, the downside of high fat, right? There's so much stuff that's out there. And we wanted to just come to you real because that's just who we are. That's what we do. And kind of give you a short history of what we personally have experienced and also use with clients that led us to what we do now present day with clients. That's pretty friggin' badass.
Well, I mean, let's preface this too by saying that the goals don't usually change all that much. I mean, most of us are always trying to maximize our fat loss, right? As well as maximize our muscle and our strength development. But the search, right? The search to get to that end, there's many different paths. And that's why you hear so much talk about keto. That's why you hear so much talk about even high carb, carb cycling, intermittent fasting. I mean, you name it. And all these things are meant to filter to the same end. And so who's right, who's wrong? I mean, I think the fact is, and we've learned this over doing this for a very long time, that, you know, there's a little bit of truth and there's a little bit of fallacy in almost everything. And the key is being able to cherry pick the stuff that actually matters and then understand how to put it together so it all works. So why don't we start off with, should we start with mine?
Back to the beginning. Well, when I met you, I was like 30 pounds heavier than I am now. And we've had 2 kids since then. And I was doing all sorts of crazy things with my diet. I was the cardio queen and you introduced me to the world of bodybuilding. And in that world, what did we do, Mike?
Well, we followed predominantly a lower fat, high carb approach. And I mean, listen, the truth is it worked exceptionally well for losing body fat while maintaining the most amount of muscle that you possibly could. I mean, that's always the goal, right? To step on stage with your muscles nice and full, but being lean. And a lot of competitors, you know, had followed this route. And this was more in recent years. I mean, we all know the old school way of doing it. But thankfully, some of that stuff got dispelled and people started going really high carb, which was great and was really effective. But there was a major downside to it, which was there were dramatic shifts in energy level. And then a lot of it was not sustainable long after a competition because you had to be so on point with the precise amount of fat, carbs, and protein you were taking in. And it was not something that you could actually live with. It's nothing that we could do today as parents, 2 kids running around and wanting to look our best, but at the same time, you know, enjoy life.
That's so true. And I'll never forget like dropping 24 pounds quick. I mean, that was legitimately from July to October in 1 year. And I was looking at like all these small size jeans and he's like, don't buy them. I'm like, I'm going to buy them. He's like, don't buy, don't do it. And of course I bought them and they didn't fit after the competition because we got so tight, so lean. And it was amazing. It was a great experience. But then fast forward, that was like 2011, right? 2010. Wow.
Yeah.
We've been doing that a long time. Okay. Fast forward then to 2017. All right. Actually, one of our naturopaths introduced me to keto, and Mike was not a fan of keto, but I had watched Mike be hangry, and I think everybody can relate to that hangry feeling where you got the high highs, the low lows, right? And if you don't eat, you really feel like you need to eat. And so when he started to explain keto a little bit, I was like, all right, we're not going to eat bacon all day long. I think I could get on board with this, right? Not the bacon, the cheese, and the butter, because, that's not good either. And Mike watched me and criticized me for a couple of months, putting butter in my coffee and all that fun stuff. But then he really hopped on board and we became keto-ish, right? We didn't put ourselves into that corner hold of keto where we did go a lot higher fat, but we drastically reduced the amount of carbs. And I mean, I think the biggest pain in the butt with that was we had to prep everything. Like you couldn't like grab a bar, grab a whatever, like you literally had to cook everything pretty much from scratch for every meal. So you know a little bit more about the scientific side of us doing that. And I think in the beginning we had great results, but then, that was a 3-year span of us doing that. Towards the end of it, it was like, right? Like,
well, not even just for us, but even for a lot of people that we knew who were also following that plan. We had clients who were following a plan very similar, And the thing was that most people do get good results initially, but what inevitably winds up happening, and this is true for all nutrition plans, so this is not to demonize keto by any stretch, but all of a sudden, after you've seen some success, you start to let things creep back in, and you're not really paying very good attention to it. And I think the one criticism that I had specifically around keto was that when we or others were really hitting that sticking point, hitting that true plateau, I'm not following the plan and I'm plateauing, but like that true plateau, what we tend to find is that you overeat fat to the extent at which it just makes it really difficult to access that fat for energy. And, I'm not going to get into the whole science of it, but what makes keto work is that you get your body to become fat adapted. So fat does become its primary source of energy. However, even if that is your body's primary source of energy, if you're taking in so much more than your body can use at any one point in time, then it's still going to get stored as fat. And it's going to make it very difficult to lose fat. So while initially it might work out really well, over time, you're still going to run into that problem where if you are not controlling for the total amount of fat that you're taking in, then the fact is that you're not going to burn any fat beyond a certain point.
So true. So true. Which kind of landed us to where we are now, which is a very moderate approach. And I see so many clients enjoying it because they've experienced all these other extremes. Because again, any program you follow, as long as you stick to it, for the most part, it's going to work. Does it mean you're going to feel your best or look your best? Not necessarily, right? But like pretty much any plan out there works. So I get like kind of annoyed when people are like, it's got to be this one way. And we almost become like zealots of that one way. Like, not true. We like to have something that's livable. It's got to fit into your lifestyle. And so I know that clients have said that they enjoy most what we do right now just because they're able to live their life, have a glass of wine if they would like it, and spend time with their family, like not cook 5 different meals. Cause when it was keto, it was like my cream cheese pancakes and then, his egg pancakes and then our kids' regular pancakes. Like you don't want to cook them many pancakes and just, can multiply that out for every single meal that you guys have. We know that that's not what is realistic, right? For the long term. And so anything that we teach our clients, we want them to be able to implement it literally for the rest of their lives. I mean, that's one of the most important, I guess, the key components of nutrition programs is what's something that's sustainable. So,
and a lot of this conversation was coming off the back of the conversation we had in our VIP group just yesterday. And what we find is that when people are struggling, right, the typical issue is that, it's not that they might necessarily be doing more of one or more of the other, but they're doing more of too much of everything, basically. I mean, you can be successful, as we've seen people, with keto, right? But you have to be really low carb in order to make it work. Just as you can be successful and step on a bodybuilding stage following a very high carbohydrate plan. In fact, like most days, I mean, I was between 250 and 400 grams of carbohydrates on a daily basis.
You're shredded.
And the thing was, though, if you're going to follow that type of plan, then you have to be really low on fat. And the thing that should always remain constant is your protein, right? We know that protein, especially for anybody who's training, you need to keep that protein at an adequate level. And then the rest is all about controlling carbs and fats. And you can think of those two acting as if they were on a scale. So if you do choose to go higher fat, be it for a meal, for several days, for several weeks or months, if you're going to do that, then you have to take down the carbohydrates, right? You can't allow this to sneak in because it doesn't work. Just like it doesn't work the other way. If you want to have your chips and your popcorn and you want to enjoy some things, right? You want to enjoy all that stuff over here, but that means that your fat content has to be extremely low if you're going to avoid any potential problems.
Well, and by problems, like when Mike says, like, yes, it doesn't work or to avoid problems, predominantly what we're getting at is you will gain weight. Like when you have high levels of those two macronutrients, your carbohydrates and your fat, inevitably you're going to gain weight. And that typically for people is the opposite goal that most, I would say 95% of them are after, right?
Yeah. And listen, we get it. If you want to gain weight, you want to gain muscle. You don't want to just gain fat. So I don't think anybody wants to gain any fat. Gaining weight is a whole different story, conversation for another day. But the point is that no matter what the objective is, You cannot do both high carb and high fat together and expect to get the result that you're looking for.
Heck yes. Well, in closing, we want to give you guys an actionable, right? If this was intriguing to you, we want you to let us know if you learned something from this. I think clients often say to us, like, I get what to do, but some people want to know why we do what we do. And so, well, there you go. Now you know exactly why we do what we do. And we always use ourselves and our clients. Like, we do beta test a lot of things on ourselves, and we'll do things with clients that are open and interested in trying new and different things. We always like to try it ourselves first, because then we can speak to it. So the title of this video, the downside of high carb, what would you say is the biggest downside of high carb?
The fluctuations in energy, that you are an absolute slave to carbohydrates because you must rely upon them in order to provide all of your energy throughout the day.
I love that. And in closing, what would you say is the best advice you would give to somebody that's maybe not in our VIP group right now, that's watching this for the first time?
If you have been struggling with your nutrition and you just can't seem to figure it out, then we should probably have a conversation, because typically we hear a lot from many people, like, I'm eating healthy, but that doesn't mean that you are eating right for fat loss or for your body goals and ultimately exactly the way that you want to look and feel. So it's all about dialing it in, figuring out what's right for you, having the right combinations of everything. And once you get that and it just becomes part of your lifestyle, I mean, the rest is easy.
Heck yes. And to our VIPers, keep up the great work. We love watching your progress. We love celebrating with you along the way. And as you guys know, your meal plan is located right inside your app, and that's specific to you. So if you haven't checked that out recently, get back in there. Let us know if you need any help or tweaking, and we wish you guys an awesome day. See you tomorrow.